So now let's go build up the home page. Now this is our home page right now. Currently, we just have a simple H2 here. Let's build it up. And with our home components, let's create a div, or let's have a div here that is going to have a text of white, a width of full, and a height of full. Now for our components, we need, let me take a look at what we have here. We need a search component, and then we need a recipe card. So, a card that is going to display the recipe image, just what we have here exactly. We need a card to do this, and we need a search box. And we also want to say, okay, what if we don't have anything? What if we don't have any recipe? Maybe you search and we don't have anything. And what do we want to do? So we want to also create a component that will show you when we don't have any recipe. Probably in our pages, we'll just create that. But for the search box, we need to create it in our component. So let's go quickly create this component here. So I'm going to go back to my VS Code. I'm going to, let me just save this. Let's go back to components. Now let's create another component that we're going to call search dash box dot tsx. Now I'm going to say export const search box is, and I'm going to come back to the element I want you to take. I'm going to say return null. At this point, I want you to take a title. So what is the title of your page? Which is, if I go back to this place, this you see here, you see recipe. So that is the title. Now we're going to take a query like the search term and then set query. And then we have a function that we'll call when you hit on submit. We're going to call that search. And then we have to provide types for that. And then we define the type. Remember, the React form event is always imported from form event in React. So I don't think I need to waste our time explaining this again. We already have that. And then the set state action, I can actually remove React from here and simply import set state action from React like this. So this is a set state action, and then it's going to be a string, and it's going to return nothing. And then this is a query, which is just the text that the user has typed in. So this is the search box here. Now, this search box, what do we want to have here? Let's create a React fragment. And then in between the fragments, we're going to have a h2, that's a class name of font weight of 800, text font size of extra large, and the title is going to be whatever title that is being passed. Then we are reusing our form components. If you remember our form components, let me import it from here. So we are going to say on submit equals to on search. Whatever we define as on search, the form component is going to take that up. Then our impute component, let's import that too. Our impute component that we built earlier, which is going to take a placeholder, which is called, in this case, search for a recipe. The type is text, the value is query, and the handle change is simply from event, HTML impute, and it's going to call set query, and it's passing e.target.value, which is the value, whatever the user types in. And all this is going to come from the search box is going to get it as a prop. And then after that, what do? We pass in our class name for the search box, which is, we'll give it the background of 900, the zinc 900, and then padding top and bottom of 1, padding left and right of 4, width of full, shadow of extra large, placeholder text, we want it to be small. Just the same styling we gave to the input field in our homepage. And then we have a hover. When we hover on it, we want the background to be zinc of 800, and we want every time you go through it to be a cursor of pointer. And then when you focus, we want no outline to show. Then we have a margin top of 3, so that we can give a little distance between the input field and the H2 tag that represents the title. So that is that. So now I can go back to my home page and use this search box. So if I go here now, example, I can see search box. No, I need to actually export this in my index. So if I go back to this index here, I can now add search box to it. Say search box. So if I go back here now, say search box, and I need to pass some prop such as title. So the title, since it's home page, is going to show recipes for everybody. So I'm going to call it recipes, not even recipes. And they need on search. So I'm going to say const on search. And it's going to be it's going to be from event, obviously. For event from React, it's going to be HTML from event. Let me get it. HTML from element I meant. And then let's finish up with the function. For now, we are not doing anything with it. So we'll just pass that here. Say on search. The name doesn't have to be on search actually. We can actually call it on submit. So let me just change that to on submit. And then here we just say on submit. It doesn't matter. And then we need to pass in query, which is going to be query. I also need to pass in set query, which which is equals to set query. Now there's another way you can pass all these props, but I'm just going to ignore that for now. So let's quickly initialize the rest of them. So we'll say const query, set query, and I'll say use state from React. Initially it's going to be a string. It's going to be of type string, initially going to empty string. So we have this. Now, one way you can pass this thing without having to pass it like this, like one by one like this, is to simply say const, let's call it props, is equal to, I will now have title to be, let's say, recipes. And then we have on search to be on submit. We have query to be query. This is an object, and since they are the same name, we don't have to repeat it. And then you can just come here, remove everything here, and then spread the props. So we can use like this to also pass it. So if you want to do like this, I think I'll leave this one just for the example. So if I go back to the browser and let's take a look here, you see we now have recipes, and then we have our text we can type inside. Very, very easy using our search box components that we have created. So that is one way to do it. The other way is to pass all the prop like this, search box, then we pass it like this. So let me just comment this out and leave the other one. All right, so with this now, we now have a search box. The other thing we need to now create is our card component. We need to have a card and a recipe card, and also we need to now create the what we will show to user when we don't have any, if we don't have any recipes. Like currently now we don't have any recipe in our database. So if we were to query the database for something, we won't get anything. So what do we show? Let's start with the card first. So let's go to the components again, right click on new file. Let's call it cards.tsx. So we're just creating this little components like this. I'm going to say export const card. And this is going to take some props. So first of all, let me say return null, just return nothing. And then the props, I'm just going to pass in the types first, then from the types we derive them. So we have a type of ID string, so we're going to have an ID. We're going to have an avatar. Now, remember we're not storing avatar in our backend, so we're just simply going to use an image from, what's it called? Unsplash. You can, to make this application more user-friendly, maybe you create in your backend, you add a where the user upload an image. So I already showed how to upload an image in one of the past videos in this playlist, so you can just take a look at that. Okay, so say we have an image. I think the image is for the food itself, the recipe itself, while the avatar is your profile picture. So we have yeah, I showed how to upload this image here to Cloudinary. So you can use the same concept to create avatar upload for the user if you want to. So we have a description, we have a title. TypeScript is helping me to complete now because I pasted the type. So I guess I should have been having type before I wrote whatever is there. We have ingredients, we have note, and now note is optional. Then we have children, which is a React node, and then we have is full. So let's import React node from React itself. Yeah, so this is what our card component is going to accept. Kind of huge, but not really huge for what we want to do. So back here now, we're going to remove null, and we're going to have a div here. Now, this div, we have some dynamic calculations going on here in our class name. So what we're doing is, the weight is full, but we're now checking if this prop is passed, is full is passed. Now, this is full is in the case where we're looking at a single recipe. We want to show the full image. So we're now passing this is full prop to check if we should show the full image like everything, or we should, do some cutting and another in our image. So that is why we have this is full prop here. Is a boolean and it's optional. You don't have to pass it. So what we are checking is if we have is full, then we are going to say that the width should be 50%. On a this is for medium screen. When we're on a small screen, we don't care. We must show full. But if we don't have is full, we want to show a width of 14 rem from medium screen upwards. Then the rest of this is just background color for the div is of zinc 900. We have a transition in and out, a delay 150, and then we have a hover of translate -xc. So when you hover, want to shift it on the horizontal axis a bit of 6, and then we have a scale of 100, and the duration for our animation is about 300 milliseconds. We have a margin button of 4, so we want to push down. Then after this, we now have an image. Now the image is also kind of working the same prop the way we work with the other one. Is checking if we have its full prop, and if we have it, it's taking the whole full width. If we don't, it's taking from rem. The same thing for height and other. So I'm not going to waste our time explaining that again. But where is the source coming from? It says it's coming from the image that we pass in uh, from the recipe that we created. Now after the image, we then wrap up the rest of our card by creating a div. We're still using the isFull prop to determine the width that we are going to determine to use. And we're using overflow clip here, this class here, to make sure that if the text is too much, we want to cut it. Maybe we want to cut it out. And then what we now have the image of the user, the avatar, and we're kind of using the same styling for what we use in our dashboard layout. We have the avatar of the user, and then we have the user email that we are showing, which we are getting from our prop. Then after that, what else do? We now check for its full tag for our text, like the title that you give your whatever. We check if we don't have its full, then we truncate. That is, we cut short. If your text is too much, we just cut short, and then we pass in this dot 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 so that you see dot 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 that say, oh, something is still remaining. And then we pass it, and we just do that for all of them. Every other thing, this ingredients, we have a span, and then we also check is full prop there. If not, truncate, and then height overflow hidden, then show this dot 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 another. And we did the same thing for the rest of them, notes, description. But one thing about the note is that we are checking if there is note. Remember, the note is optional. So we're saying if there is note, only if there is note, then we want to display the note by showing it this. And then that is that. Then we render the children. So any other thing that you pass into this card as a child, we render it. So the card is now acting like using a React composition. So we can pass in other items here, other elements, React elements there. All right, so this is the card itself. We now need to create a recipe card, which is going to use this card itself. We're going to create a recipe card. Now, in this card, I'm actually not using the ID to do anything, but I added the ID there for the case of, let's say you want to delete and you want to maybe edit. But for this application, I am not going to do that. You yourself, you can extend it. You can add editing. You can add deletion. Just feel free to make the application yours. Feel free to add as many features you can add. You can do a lot of things on your own there. So let's create the recipe card that would use this card, which we are going to use to in our home page itself. Card. I want to go back to our types and let's create the types that we are expecting for our recipe. So we are kind of defining the shape here, and then we could actually just move this out into a type. Well, for now, I'm just looking at it like this, and I will just leave it for now. We can actually move it here, but let me go back here first of all. Let me go to the top and let's create some types. Now, we have the first interface we have created, which is the iRecipe, this is for probably we want to create recipe. We'll be using this, but why I first created this is because I want to extend it. So I wanted to create this first, then extend it in the rest of the um, interfaces. So I want to extend it in the rest of the interfaces. That's why I have to create it first. So we have a title, a description, and a note. If there is a note, yes. If there's no note, then fine. Now, iRecipe payload. So this one is, like I said, when you are creating a recipe. If you want to create a recipe, you will have an image. So what we are doing is we are extending this one here. So when we say iRecipe payload extends iRecipe, so it's just like taking this whole thing here and then having it here. So that is what it simply means. So we now have everything here, everything in this place inside here. So instead of recreating this again, we just say extend that. And then we now do the same thing here again. We said iRecipe response, extend iRecipe again. So it's simply the same thing of take everything here and then put down here with these additional things that we want to add in our code here. But we don't want to do that. So we simply extend that and add that to it. Now, so we now have an underscore ID, which is the response we are expecting back. So because normally when we create a recipe, our response is going to contain underscore ID, is going to contain an image. And what shape does this image have? Let's take a look. The image has a URL. If you remember our MongoDB schema, this is exactly what we had. The image has a URL and an ID. So we also pass that here. And then it has a user that has an email inside of a string. So we can actually create this on our side, but I'm going to leave it like this. So we now have this. Now what about the iRecipe user, which is the user that owns this recipe that we are going to get? So we also say export interface iRecipe user extends. So we are still extending, but this time around we're extending this one. So this guy here. So this guy here extends the I recipe up here, and we are extending it. But one thing is that if you see this omit here in TypeScript, we want to change a value. If you look at this place, look at line 15, you see that the user is an object that contains email or string. But here, we want the user to simply be a string, which is just going to be the email. So we have to say omit, and then we say I recipe response, and then what we want to change is the user. And in this way now we can change the type. So we are saying, okay, the type should simply be a string and not an object of email or string. So with this now, we have extended this particular component, interface, and that means that we have this underscore ID, we have this image, but then we want to change the type of this user. That's why I have to say omit this, and then we select what we want to change, and we change that to this. So we now have all the types that we'll be needing. Like I said earlier, you can actually move all these ones out in the type side and also declare that, but I'm just going to leave it like this. With that being said, now let's go back and create the recipe component, recipe card. So if you take a look at what we have now, we have the recipe card. So we say export const recipe card, and I've done this over and over again, so I feel like we shouldn't waste our time with this. So what are we doing here? We are accepting all these props from iRecipe user. If you remember the types that we just finished creating, and then we are getting use navigate from React Router DOM. And remember, we used it before. So what you want to do is, if you click on it, if you click on any of wherever we call this, I think we have a function called handle use navigate, and we have a function called handle view more. So there is a view more. If you go back to what we have in this finished application, I have this view more button. So I think my login expired. I don't know how many hours I set the JWT to expire, but you notice that immediately expired, it fired me out. I was logged out. But we have I'm not even wasting my time with that again for now. So we have this, and then we want somebody, when you click on view more, we want to navigate to slash dashboard slash recipe, then slash the ID, which is this underscore ID we are getting here. But let's also import the recipe user, which we just created earlier. So with this now, we now call our card components. Now remember our card component, we have to pass in an ID, the title, the image, the ingredients, and so many more, and all that. And then the avatar is just coming from Unsplash. Don't forget that. We are not using any avatar. Let's import the button. And then we have a title that simply says view more. And then handle click. When you handle click. Now, because we want to pass the ID, we have to actually call this like this. We have to call this way so that we can pass the underscore ID. So when somebody clicks on view more, then we have an ID here to navigate to. Then finally, we pass our styles for the button, and then we save. So with this now, we have our card ready, and we have the recipe card. We can actually create this right away from what's it called? We can create it right away from the home component, but I just wanted to put it down like this. And because since it's a card, I just okay, let me put it together with the card components. And we can now go back to the index.ts and export both of them. So we're going to say recipe card, and then also we are going to say card. So from there now we can pick up what's wrong with cards. Let's see, is it not exported? Export was cards, it is. Okay, so what's wrong? Cannot find name card. Okay, let's just go here and say card. We should find it. Yeah. All right, so let me save the types again. Now let's go back to the home page and see how I'll be able to now use these cards. All right, so I think we forgot one thing. Let's go to our pages and let's create a component that will show when there's nothing, when the nothing came back. So let's go to pages and let's click, let's create a folder called common. So I want this to be in the pages because I'm using it only there. So I'm going to create what I call no-recipe.tsx. And I'm also going to have my index right here in the common index.ts. So right here in no-recipe, I'm just going to have a simple component, React components, which is simply export plus no recipe, and taking it to navigate. And I feel like we shouldn't explain this anymore because we have overflogged this issue. What we are simply doing here is when you click on this, we just want to say, like when you come and you don't have any recipe, we show you a button that says, oh, click on this to add recipe. So when you click on it, then we just take you to the add recipe part of our dashboard so that you can create a recipe since there's no recipe. And then we go back down here, we show you a H3 that says no recipes yet. And then we have a button that has the title of add a recipe, which actually calls this particular function. When you click on it, it takes you to the add slash dashboard slash add a recipe page. And then you can add a recipe if you want to. So I'm just going to go here and export that. So export no recipe. All right, so you can now go deal with our home page. So let's first of all, let me create a simple state here that is going to contain all our items. Now I'm just going to create a simple thing. I'm going to say const state and set state, and it's going to be use state. For now, I'm just going to pretend that I don't have any type, and I'm going to pass in an empty array. So with this now, I'm just pretending I have an array of items. Because since when you come on the home page, we are going to show you all the recipes from everybody. So let's now go down here and let's use that. So we are saying that if state.length is greater than 0, this is what we want to render. Don't worry about this. Let's import the types. So we just want to, oh my God, want to import the types. I want to import recipe card and also no recipe. So we have imported all these components. Now we want to say that it has the class name of flex and flex wrap. So this flex wrap is making sure that when the items is going off, then it just goes down and then continue from there. Flex direction is column, items is center. Now remember that flex direction is column is for mobile screen, because later we now have MD justify and then item that starts, which, and then at the end of the day we have flex column of row, which is for a large screen. All right, then we have a state.map recipe, and then it's going to be iRecipe response. If you go check our type and to see the kind of data we are getting back from iRecipe response, and we have an index of number, and then we now call the recipe card. Then we pass a key, we pass all the recipe. Remember the way I showed you that we just structured here, this thing here, that is the same thing we have done here. We now pass everything. Then the user, we now say recipe.user.email, and we say this is going to be a string. Yeah, so we pass this. So if we have something in state, it's going to show. What if we don't have something in, we are not going to have no recipe if you don't have anything. So if I were to go back, I'm expecting to see no recipe. So you see it says no recipe. And when I click on this, it's going to try to take me to this particular page. But the thing is, this page doesn't exist right now. So it's just going to throw an error. So let's also go take care of one or two things more. Now let's go back to our hooks. Let's create a hooks that we use to search. Remember that our home page contains a search field. Let's go and create a hook to search that is going to communicate to our database trying to search for something. So let's go back to our Explorer. Let's go to hooks. In the hooks right folder, right click and click on new file. Let's call it recipe.tsx. TSX, TS is a hook. And here we're going to say const export const use recipe. Remember, all hooks must start with use. And then we are going to say this hook is not going to take anything. Now, I've done this before when I created the first hook, so I'm not going to take our whole time explaining the whole thing. Let's create a state, say const loading, like we did for that one initially, for the first state. First use state, and it's going to be of type boolean, and it's going to be false initially. Then, what do we want to have here? We're simply going to have a recipe. So this is going to come from our what's it called? From our hook, our use hook. From our hook, our use recipe hook, we are going to return search recipe. So this is going to be for searching, and then we are importing Axios response from Axios. We are importing our iRecipe response from our types, and then we are saying that this is going to be an array because when we search, we are searching for everything. We don't care. We're not looking for just the first one. We're looking for anything that matches. So we're going to have an array of iRecipe response, and we're saying that it is either going to be an array of iRecipe response or an empty array because we can search and we might not get anything back. We might not get anything back. So it's going to be iRecipe response, an array of an iRecipe response, or nothing. On like an empty array. When I say nothing, I mean an empty array. All right, so we're going to say try catch. We want to set one into true, and then we want to say response it awaits instance.get slash recipe slash find. Then the query is the key which we are going to pass to search recipe. And then if you have a response back, we send response on data. If we do not find anything, then we don't do anything. So instead of any here, I'm going to change this to unknown, just to show that I don't know. But I know that we're not sending it back. If we have an error, our Axios interceptor is going to take care of that. So that's why we have this here. So I'm going to go here and say return loading and set search recipe. So with this now, I'm able to use this hook in any parts that I want to search my application. I can reuse this hook there. So let's go back to the home page and let's get that out. So I'm going to say const loading and set not search recipe. And spell search today. Search recipe is equal to use recipe. And I think I forgot to export that in our index. So you go back to the hooks, go to the index, and then export use. Yeah, so let's go back here. Let's remove this. Yeah, and that's, I hope. Okay, I need to actually call it. So I call this way. All right, so we now have this. So this is going to be taking care of we, searching. So let's handle this our on search. This our on submit, which is going to search. Let's create the searching functionality actually. So before we actually handle that, let's set a proper state here. So I'm going to say that what type is this state here? It's going to be type of I recipe response as an array. So it's either going to be like this. So how do we now handle the case? In this case, it's going to be an empty array for now. And we're going to say on search. So on search, we are saying that the search, we're going to take a form event of HTML from event. So when you submit that, when you click, you either submit or maybe you have a button that says type of submit, is a HTML from event. And first, we're going to say either prevent default. We don't want any refreshing of the page. And we are saying if there is no query, if you didn't type anything, we just return immediately. We don't do anything else. But if you type something, we're going to call our search recipe from the use recipe hook, and we're expecting a response. So we're going to say if we have a response, if result, I'm going to say is not equal to null. Let's, but this cannot be null. It's not equal to empty array or something. So let's just say if results, should we check? Well, if result, then we're going to say set state to be result. Now, so if we have something, we are going to say set state to be whatever we have. So with this now, we are able to search. So if we find anything in our database, okay, we have an error. Let's take a look. This argument of type empty is not assignable to parameter of set state action I recipe response. Okay. One other thing we can do is let's say to saying well, I don't know. Let's specify a type here. Say iRes. Uh, from here we are having that. Let's saying that let me see unknown. If I just go back to the recipe and change this unknown actually to any, I think that should fix the problem. Yeah, that fixes it. So we get this, and then we are expecting an array of this. It's either this or an empty array. So we can either get that or an empty array. So I think I could have specified it here that you can either have this or empty array. Let me change this back to unknown and let's see if that actually works. Let's see. Let's see. Does it work? It doesn't work. Yes. Yes, for now, just leave that as any. We already know what we want, but if we can't find out what we want, well, this can either be iRecipe response or an empty array. So if there's nothing there, it's an empty array because it didn't find anything. So we're not going to say, I think we call it actually on submit, not on search. Submit. But we have another on submit somewhere else. Okay. Oh, seems like I created another on submit. So I'm just going to take out this one here. I'm going to take it out because what I wanted to implement there is just what I have done here. So that is that. Now, all we have to do is, what do we have to do here? I think that's all. So with this now, we are able to search and we can go back to, where is it? To this place. We can also say that probably we want to disable the search field when someone is searching, passing the loading and then, deal with that, but I'm just going to let that be. So with this now, we have all this working out. One other thing we need to do is we need to get a data fetching library so that we'll be able to, fetch data. And we're going to use SWR. It's very nice, just like React query. But I like SWR, very, very easy to set up. No need to go and go to my root files to, configure that or that. I just use it. But you can actually set up a SWR using a global, global whatever, so that you don't have to keep calling it everywhere. But I'm just going to, we are just using it in two places. So I'm going to actually, set it up here. So let's quickly go back to our terminal. Let me see. Our server is still running, so let's leave the server alone. Let's press Control and open up here. Let's run yarn add SWR. So you can go to the browser and type in SWR from vercel, and then don't know why it's opening. It's talking about suspense. Let me see. Here's your getting started. Then you can read instruction on how to use SWR, and then you learn more about it. So it helps with slashing helps with revalidating our queries, and it's very, very nice for us um, to use in even your future applications. So it's not installing. Just clear this and close this. So how are we going to use SWR? SWR, let's say import use SWR from SWR. So with this now, we then go on to create. Let me do it here. So use SWR. Let me call our instance. Import the instance from Axios. Okay. So to use SWR, you have to create what we call a fetcher. So for the fetcher, you pass the URL. So you can, let's assume you didn't configure what we did. You just want to call your Axios here. You're going to see Axios.post, Axios.create, get, Axios.patch, whatever. But because we already have our instance that is going to work for us, we just call it instance.get and we pass in the URL. And then we say .then. So it's a promise if you have any data. And then we say res.data. And then you come here and you extract data and error. Then you pass in use SWR, you give it the route, which is the URL is going to pass to the fetcher here, and it says /recipe. Fetcher, we call in the fetcher. And now in this case, we are passing suspense true. So we don't need to check, oh, it's loading or whatever. Suspense true is going to take care of that for us. So with this now, this /recipe is the URL here that is passed to the fetcher. And then because of this now, we now need to change how we use our data. We show this part. We now need to wrap it in a React suspense. If not, we'll get an error. So first of all, now this is going to run immediately our page loads. So we want to also say that, okay, this is not just going to be an empty array. It's going to be of data. And it's going to say, oh, data is probably, this data from here. We're going to say as unknown. We want to convert that as iRecipe response object. We're going to see that. And if not, it's just going to be an empty array. So if there's nothing in the data, obviously, you're just going to have an empty array. But if we have something there, then that is that. So, but here we are simply saying, oh, this is of type iRecipe response. So, like I said earlier, we are just passing whatever we get back here into the state here. We are passing that into the state here. And then we are casting into, making sure, first casting into iRecipe response, an object of iRecipe response. So like I said earlier, we now need to wrap this here in React suspense. Otherwise, we'll get an error. So you see, we already have an error saying error page 2. An error page 2 is coming from, if we go to app. We don't have app. Where is app.ts? Search app.tsx. Error page 2 is coming from here, which is our error element for this nested children. All right, so we need to fix that by just going back to the home page and let's copy everything here and just wrap it in suspense. So we're going to say suspense, which is coming from React. And then we now need to provide a fallback. For now, we have not configured any loader. So let's say fallback is simply, let's say, loading a div that says loading. So it simply has loading there. So now we shouldn't have that error anymore, I guess. Let's refresh. Oh, I think we are logged out. Let's log in. Yes, gmail.com. Password. So let's log in. Yeah, you saw the loading sign there, and we are logged in. So seems like we have a recipe. Really, really, we have a recipe. Wow. Probably. Oh, I think. Yeah. I remember. We created a recipe. If you remember our backend when we finished, I think the video before we get to the client, we created a recipe where we uploaded this image to Cloudinary, and you can see that it just fetched that for us immediately. Page load, it fetched that for us, and then I remember typing all these things. Yes, I remember. I remember all this. Let me search. Let me search for. Let me look at the keyword that does not exist here. We don't have chicken here. Let me search for chicken. Does it work? Now it says no recipe. Now, I think they shouldn't say no recipes yet. Something like no recipes found. Yeah, so let's go fix that. Let's go back to our no recipes page. And what does it say? No recipes found. Let's change it. It's found. Yeah, so now if you search and you don't find anything, no recipes found. Yeah. So that is that. All right. So I think that is working fine. So we can now search, and we can also, what else could we do? Immediately we load on, all we have is gone. But what about if we have an error? So we have an error here. What about if I have an error? So let's handle that. above here, we're going to say if we have an error, we log the error to the console. Then we call Coco Toast to throw the error, and we return null. So we don't even get to this part or this other part. If you have an error, we simply return nothing, but we just throw the error to the user so that the user knows that we have an error. So with this now, I think our home page is ready. So the only thing that is not ready here, let me refresh this. It says loading, and then it fetches this. The only thing that is not ready is the loading state. So when we are loading, you notice that it just, just the text that I have. So there is a place I go, I just go there and I check for loadings. I don't have to create loaders from scratch. So it's called uivars.io. You open uivars.io. So I just click on browse. I come here and I pick loaders. Yeah, yeah, it's not only loaders that is there. There's so many things there you can explore. You can also, I think, start via GitHub. So, and then I just go to loaders and I see so many beautiful loaders that I can pick up and, customize. There's so many of them here with their CSS. So this is what I'm using, and I have another one I'm using in this same application somewhere else. The only thing is that they are written in HTML, so I have to, rewrite them somehow using React. But I keep their CSS. I just have to turn it into a React component. So that is that. So if you want to use any of them, for example, I want to use this one, just click on it and then it shows you the CSS and it shows you the HTML and you just copy it and you just copy that. So that is what I have in my own case here. So you can just look at the GitHub repo to see what we have. So if I go back now, I already have what's there. So I'm going to go and I'm going to go to the components and I'm going to create a folder. I'll call it loaders. Opened. Click on the component, right click on loaders, new folder and type on loaders. And then we are going to have what I'm going to call create on loaders and call it UI-loaders. I think loader.tsx. And we should have another loader. That one is going to be search loader, search. So when we are searching, dash loader.tsx. And then we'll come back for that. So the UI loader, let's go deal with that. Right in the UI loader, I'm going to just paste what I have. So you can all this is just copied from the what's it called again? From here. Everything you see in this HTML, that is what I have. The only thing I've done here is just that I have turned it into a React component, and then I have added this tailwind class here to make. What I did is I simply made it to take up the whole page, like take up the whole width of 100 VW, vertical width, height of 100 VH, background of BG that's zinc 900, an item center, justify center. I want to be in the center, and it display flex. Then every other thing is coming from UI uivars.io, and then I need to add the styling. So I'm just going to go still in my loader. I'm going to create a file called ui-style.css, and then I'm just going to go back to the UI loader, and I'm going to copy the CSS. Very easy. Just click on copy all. Just go down here and paste. You have your loader ready. The same thing for the search loader. So right here in the search loader, I'm just going to paste it, and then this is from the UI vercel. It's just a pause, so it doesn't have anything inside, and it's just going, that pause when you're searching, it just like it's blinking. Then the same thing I did for the other one. I just set up all this, made it a React component, and then I set up this statement class that just makes sure that it takes up the whole page and is center, all this kind of stuff. That is that. And I made this one the background to be transparent because I'm showing it in the component itself. It's not like the UI loader that is when the page, maybe when the page refreshes, when it first of all loads it up. So this one is showing this. I made the background to be transparent. I don't want any background to show. So let me just paste in the CSS again. So going back to the loaders, I'm going to create another one called search dash style.css. And I'm just going to paste it here. And boom, I'm done. I don't need to do anything. So you can search for yours. Just go to UI vercel. There are many components that you can use, you don't just copy and paste. But in this my own case, because I'm using React, I have to do one or two things. So let me go start from app.tsx to change the UI, the loaders. So here, where is it? In this suspense here, I'm going to replace this with UI loader. But this is actually, I think I need to have an index in the loaders. So let me create an index and export these things there. Index.ts. I'm going to say export UI loader and also export search loader. So now you can say UI loader, boom, and that is that. Fallback element also Gonna be UI loader. You know, very very easy. So I think anywhere I'm using that, I'm going to just put in UI loader. So let me go to the home page where I'm using suspense. And I'm also going to say, whenever it's loading the page, say UI loader. But then when it is searching, where is that? Okay, I need to kind of create that one. So let's come and do it here. So remember that the prop, the use recipe hook comes with a loading state. So we are going to check if it is loading. So we're going to say, if it is loading, we want to show the search loader. So I'm going to say search loader. We want to show that. Else, that is when we now want to show this state, whatever, whatever. So we're going to copy everything here, I guess, here. Is that correct? No, it's not correct. I need to leave the div alone, copy everything here. And then we pass it inside React fragment. So, and I will pass this. So if it is loading, we show the search loader. Else, we just come here and do our thing. So let's go take a look at what we have now. So let's go back to, I think I have so many things open now. Let me close this array, close this one, close this one, close this one. Oh, okay. So now this, let me refresh the page now, and you see my loader. I think one thing I need to change is the text for the. Let's go back to the loaders UI loader. I think the color of the text was I think is black, and I don't want to use black. I think it doesn't have any color. So let me see. Let me just go back to the UI loader, and the text is the class name is pl underscore underscore text. So let me go look for that. I will click on Control F, and it's pl underscore underscore text, and I find it, and I'm just going to give the color of what is the color white. F F F. Okay. Yeah. Now I have what I want. So if I reload now, it should be white. Yeah. It says loading, and now if I type my chicken again, it's going to show the that pausing sign. Boom, and it says no recipe is found. Boom. It asks you to create your own recipe. All right, so I think this is very, very nice and it's looking as promising as possible. So we now have the home page ready. Now let's go take a look at the adding of recipes. Let's say you want to add a recipe. Let's go see how you're going to do that.